This is Jason from MainstreamGeek.com, and you're listening to the Mainstream Geek podcast for January 25th, 2016. What's up, everybody? Episode 1. A little bit about myself. My name is Jason. I run MainstreamGeek.com. You can find that by visiting MainstreamGeek.com, but you might also know me from a show called Completely Straight. That's where I get together with my co-hosts twice a week, Thursdays and Mondays, and we just shoot the shit. We have guests on, bands on, play a band of the week, and we just talk about stuff in the news. I've always been a big fan of pop culture podcasts that have to do with movies, TV shows, and things of that sort. But that doesn't really fit into what we do on Completely Straight. Completely Straight is really just a couple of guys sitting around a mic and shooting the shit about what's going on in the world. And this doesn't fit that format. So I kind of wanted to spin off and do my own little thing. And that's what this is going to be. So I put together the blog on MainstreamGeek.com, and this podcast is going to be a complement to that. On the blog, I write news stories of things I find interesting, but this podcast is going to be a complement to get people to go visit that blog and read the other stories I've written about the things going on in the world of pop culture. So a little bit about the show. The plan is to release 3 short episodes a week, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, time permitting. By short, I mean they'll be about half an hour. I want people to be able to enjoy them on their way to work or on the way home from work. I don't want it to be like an hour and a half long time commitment. So I want to break it up into 3 parts over the course of a week. I'm going to do it alone for a little while until I get my voice going. I feel like having a guest on at this point for at least the first few episodes will kind of act as a handicap for me. So I kind of want to just go at it alone for a little bit. And then I'll start slowly phasing in guests so we can have conversations about the things we're talking about. So it's not just one guy spitting his opinion out into the ether. We're going to talk about movies like Star Wars, all the Marvel Universe movies, DC Universe movies, trailers about those movies, behind-the-scenes news that's coming out that week. Anything along those lines, anything that any other pop culture podcast talks about on a given week, you're going to hear that here. It's just going to have my unique spin on it. We're also going to talk about TV shows. TV shows are great. One of my favorite things. I love serialized fiction more than anything. Netflix, the new Daredevil series is coming out, so I'll probably do a review of those episodes, and release them specially. I read comic books, so if I'm reading a comic book at the moment that I'm really into, I'm going to share it with you guys, share my thoughts on it with you guys. Anything that is related to geek pop culture, I'm going to put it out there and give my opinion about it, even though you may not want to hear about it. So with that, let's see what's going on in the world of geeky news. Well, I'm sure the number one news story for anyone who's into this kind of stuff this week is the fact that Star Wars Episode 8 has been postponed by 7 months, I think it is. Off of its May 25th release date back to December 15th, 2017. Man, in my mind, that's both good and bad news. The good side is that they're going to be able to hammer out any potential kinks that may show up in the script to really get the story down, to really make sure that it's making sense and is heading into the direction that they want it to go into. And I trust that because Rian Johnson, he's an awesome director. He's directed movies like Brick, Looper, and if you haven't seen Looper, Looper is super dope. It's a great time travel movie. So if you haven't seen that, I would highly recommend seeing if that's on Netflix or something, or even, can you even rent movies these days? I mean, Jesus Christ, when was the last time you rented a movie? Well, I guess you can on a streaming service. So if you can find a copy of Looper somewhere, get a copy of Looper and watch that, because it's worth a watch. But Rian Johnson also is responsible for, in my opinion, 3 of the best episodes of Breaking Bad. Breaking Bad being one of my favorite shows of all time. He directed Fly, which is what they call a bottle episode, and it was an amazing episode. It was very deep, and it really got into the mind of Jesse and Walt and the place that they were at, and I think it was season 4 when that one happened, when they were really in the depths of things with Gus. He directed 51. He directed Ozymandias. That's the episode where they kill Hank. Spoiler alert, but if you haven't watched Breaking Bad at this point, that's on you, man. I can't sit back with these spoiler alerts after a certain amount of time. It's kind of stupid to worry about spoiler alerts 2 years after something's aired. So if you haven't seen Breaking Bad and I spoil it for you there, I just did you a favor. Also, another good piece of news with that is that Star Wars opening December killed it at the box office. I think it's like at $1.9 billion right now. $1.9 billion. I don't think I can even visualize that amount of money. What other business in this movie's been out for a month now. A month and a week. And it has already made $1.9 billion. That is more money than most businesses will make in their existence. With $1.9 billion, say they stay in a trajectory with the cost of making the movie that they did with this one. This movie cost about $200 million to make, I think I read. And they're planning on making 5 more after this. If you add all of that up, and they're all about $200 million, you're looking at about $1.2 billion for the cost of making it. That means if they don't make another penny off of the rest of the 5, they're still bringing home $800 million. Now, of course, you're not taking into account that they spent $4 billion to buy the Star Wars name, but I'm sure they've already made back most of that in merchandising alone. I mean, just look at how much merchandise is on the shelves these days for Star Wars. You can't go somewhere without there being a Star Wars bit of merchandise, at least in the checkout lane. At the gas station, you see Star Wars merchandise in the checkout lane. So they've already got their money back from making the next 5 movies. So opening December is a killer idea financially. There are some bad things, in my opinion, about this, though. The first thing, of course, we'll have to wait. I don't want to wait. I'm sure you don't want to wait. No one wants to wait because episode 7 was so damn good and it gave us so many questions that we want answered, and we were all super stoked with the idea that we only had to wait, I think it was 15 months at that time, or 17 months, about a year and a half for the next movie to come out. I remember that being like the shining light at the end of the tunnel. It's only a year and a half away till I get to see the next one, not counting Rogue One. But now it's 2 years away, which is better than it used to be. It used to be 3 years in between a movie, and without a little teaser movie in between. But still, added about 25% of the wait time on for the next movie, for the continuation of the story. So that was kind of a letdown itself. We're not going to find out for 2 years now who Rey is. If we even find out in episode 8. We don't know that we will find out in episode 8, but we're not going to find that out. We're not going to find out what happened to Kylo Ren and how they got off the planet. We're not going to find out who Snoke is. We're not going to there's all kinds of stuff we're not going to find out now just because they postponed this movie. And that's not a terrible thing. I mean, we're going to find out eventually, but it's just we're going to have to wait a little longer and we're going to have to anticipate longer. But there's a good side to that too. I mean, it's fun to sit around with your buddies and talk about what your theories are on what's happening. Like, some people believe Rey is Luke's daughter. Some people believe she's Obi-Wan's granddaughter. Some people believe that she's a child of the Force like Anakin was. I don't personally subscribe to any of those theories, but it is fun to sit down and talk and have a civil argument with your buddies about it. So we get an extra 6 months, 7 months of those conversations until the new movie comes out, and then we can have another 2 years of waiting in between that movie and episode 9 to have conversations. So that's not all bad. A couple things I am worried about with this, though, is from what they're saying about the rewrites, is that they want to focus on Rey, Finn, and Poe more, because they were more popular than they originally thought they were going to be. And they're going to take some time away from new characters that they were going to introduce. This might not be a bad thing. I would just hate for them to cut back and sacrifice a good story in order for them to sell more toys. I trust them in what they're doing, but from the statement, it really seems like they're catering to the masses and trying to say, well, these guys are popular and we know they are popular. Let's not ruin a good thing and let's keep what is working going instead of furthering the story. And that's really what I'm looking for in the Star Wars movies. I want the story to be furthered. So that's kind of a linchpin in the whole thing. If they're just, it depends on how they do it. If they do it like in Empire Strikes Back, they introduced a lot of new characters in Empire Strikes Back. They introduced Yoda, Lando, the Emperor, and they didn't really make those characters focuses of the story, but they didn't make the movie only about the original three, Han, Leia, and Luke. So, as long as they do it right, we've seen that it can be done, but I just hope this isn't like a cash grab type of deal to where Disney's like, we're making bank off of Rey, Finn, and Poe, and we're going to keep doing that instead of furthering the story. Now, I'm not saying that is what they're doing. I don't have any knowledge of what they're doing, but I do feel like that might be what they're doing. But after seeing episode 7, I'm going to have to trust them that they're going to do a good job. Another funny consequence of them moving this release date, which is actually super weird, is that a bunch of other movies moved because of it. They moved SpiderMan, the Sony/Marvel reboot of SpiderMan, another SpiderMan reboot. Can you believe it? They moved that up a few weeks. The announcement of this also made Avatar, the sequel to Avatar, which is going to come out in December 2017. They were like, fuck that, we're moving off that date. They say it's because of production time and they're not going to be ready by 2017, but I find the timing of it to be a little weird to believe that. I think that's just face-saving speak. But it's crazy to me that one movie moving its release date can affect so many other things. But that's the time we live in. I mean, we live in a time to where there are so many big movies that are announced years out, years ahead of time, that one movie moving can affect that movie's box office, so they have to shuffle things around. Everything has to be claimed and staked ahead of time so that another movie can make its money. Just think about this. If Star Wars would have stuck with its May 2017 release date, what else would it have been going against? It would have been going against Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. What a weird movie to have to compete against, because pretty much that's Marvel's version of Star Wars. And who is Marvel owned by? Disney. Who is Star Wars owned by? Disney. So Disney would have had 2 identical movies coming out in the month of May 2017. That's really strange, to me at least, that they didn't see that coming out. And those are 2 huge movies, too. It's not just like they're Star Wars and some movie that they hope will do well. Guardians of the Galaxy is pretty much a guarantee that it's going to do well, because the first one was so fucking good. So it's crazy that they even had the plan to release those 2 movies a couple of weeks apart in the first place, because one is going to cannibalize another. You also have to think about the way movies are being announced these days. There are so many movies that are coming out that I don't know about you, but I don't want to spend all of my money going to the cinema. I don't want to do that. I don't want to pay. I think it's to see a movie in IMAX. I think it's $18 if you pre-order your tickets, $15 if you don't. But I don't want to do that. Like, so I need to sit down and pick and choose what movies I want to go see, because it's just not in the budget to see every single movie that comes out. And honestly, if I'm being straight up with you, a lot of times I end up stealing movies off the internet, screeners of the movies off the internet, because I'm not going to pay to go see a movie I'm not sure of. But that brings a whole new problem, because there are all these properties, the Marvel properties and the Star Wars properties, and it's looking like maybe the DC properties, they're all going to be movies that I'm interested in seeing on the big screen. So shit's about to get really expensive for me. I put an article up on MainstreamGeek.com about this. It's called How I Went Broke by Going to the Movies in 2016. I'll link that below. But yeah, it's a really interesting time. It's fantastic, but it's an interesting time that we live in, where all of these movies are coming out. I think this year we have, this is a list of movies that are coming out this year. We have, in February, starts off with Deadpool. Deadpool comes out on February 12th, Valentine's Day weekend. So Valentine's Day weekend, I'm going to see Deadpool, and I'm going out with my wife for Valentine's Day. Going to be a crazy weekend that weekend. In March, Cloverfield 2. Well, 10 Cloverfield Lane is what it's called, but it's essentially Cloverfield 2. I have to go see it. I love the first Cloverfield so much that I have to go see that movie. So they've got me there. Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice. I mean, that could be or could not be great, but I'm there because they have me. I'm such a fan of Batman, and the idea of him fighting Superman and seeing this new cinematic universe kind of start, They have me. They've got me hooked in. April, we have The Jungle Book. I'm a big Disney fan, and I'm going to go see The Jungle Book. In May, Captain America Civil War. They've got me there. I'm already hooked into the Marvel franchise. I'm not moving away from that. X-Men Apocalypse. I like the X-Men movies just fine. I'm there for that one. Ninja Turtles. I might go see that one, but I'm, if I don't see that one, that's not a big deal. Independence Day. Independence Day 1 was one of my favorite movies. I'd say it's in my top 10 movies of all time. It's just such a thrill to watch, but now they have Independence Day 2 coming out. Independence Day Resurgence, I think is what they're calling it. And God, does it look like a piece of shit. But God damn if they don't have me. God damn if they don't have me. I'm there. I'm there to hate watch that movie. I hope I'm wrong, but God damn if it doesn't look bad. Ghostbusters, another childhood favorite. I have to go hate watch that one too. Again, I don't have to, but I'm going to go hate watch that. Suicide Squad, that's in August. I'm there for that one. October, they're saying Gambit's coming out, but I don't see that one actually happening in October. And then November, we have Doctor Strange. I'm there for that one. And in December, of course, Star Wars Rogue One. There are so many movies coming out that there's not going to be enough time to even worry about Star Wars Episode 8 being postponed because you have so much to fill your time in between there. And that's just 2016. The list of movies I just rambled off was 2016. That's not even mentioning all of the movies that are coming out in 2017. Crazy, exciting, and expensive times we're living in. Okay, let's see what else we got. In the news this week. They dropped an official Suicide Squad trailer. That's big news this week. I think it's awesome how they're introducing the villains by giving them their own movie. They're starting off the cinematic universe. I know they technically started off the DC universe with Superman, Man of Steel, but it's really kicking off with Batman vs. Superman, or v Superman. And I think it's cool how the second movie, the follow-up to the opener, is an introduction to a bunch of villains. Movies usually introduce villains by having them as the antagonist in a hero movie. But besides the Joker and Harley, I don't see how many of these villains are going to fit into movies beyond a Suicide Squad movie, because there's not going to be a lot of time for it. You can't... Obviously, the Joker and Harley are probably going to be the focus of the Batman movie, or movies, when those come out. That's an obvious thing. But I don't see a main antagonist of Batman or Superman or The Flash or any of the other movies they've announced, some of which sound fucking awful, by the way, being Deadshot or being Killer Croc or the Enchantress or any of those people. I don't even know who half of those characters are, besides just being sort of aware of them from the comics. I don't know any of their backstory, but I don't think they would fit in as a main villain in a movie. It just seems like that's not going to draw enough people in. You need, movies typically have the banner name villains as the antagonist. So I don't know if this is kind of a wasted movie or if they're just going to have their own little franchise of Suicide Squad movies. We'll have to see how that goes. I gotta say, the new Joker, his look hasn't grown on me yet. A lot of people I know have come around and said that they like the new look. I'm not a fan. It looks a little bit too much like he's an ICP. What do you call those guys? Juggalos? He looks a little bit too hip-hop rapish, and that's not the Joker's style. I know they're going for their own flavor in this movie, and I know that's what's going on, but to me personally, that doesn't fit the Joker. The Joker has this timeless, classic look to him that should happen. They pull it off really well by giving it its own spin in The Dark Knight, and then, of course, Tim Burton's Batman, he had that classic look. But this new Joker, he just looks like a slob. And the Joker, in my head, is not a slob. He's not some guy with gold teeth and tattoos all over him, walking around with his shirt off. That's not who the Joker is to me. Now, I could be wrong. I haven't seen how they're playing the Joker off yet. Maybe it fits perfectly and I won't think about it. But this neon green hair and the tattoos, it's not working for me as a preview. So it's just going to have to be one of those wait and see things. Harley Quinn looks awesome. Margot Robbie, of course she looks awesome. Margot Robbie's smoking hot. She's been one of my favorites ever since the infamous scene in The Wolf of Wall Street. I think we all know, if you've seen that movie, what scene I'm talking about. Crazy hot chick, and actually a really good actress, because if you, I didn't know that she was Australian until much later. When I was watching Wolf of Wall Street, I just thought she was just some hot chick they picked off the street that happened to be able to act a little bit and just fit that role. But no, she's pretty diverse as an actress, so I'm kind of stoked to see her as Harley Quinn. One more thing I'm not a big fan of in the movie is the way Killer Croc looks. He looks like just a normal dude with a skin condition or like a mutation. He's not big like he is in the comic books or the old cartoon series or the video games. Killer Croc is supposed to be this giant guy, this giant strong Hulk of a man. And I know that they're going for like a realistic kind of look, but I don't know, when it comes to character design in a world where there's a flying man who shoots lasers out of his eyes and alien police squad who has a green ring to help defend the universe, I don't think that realism in that character's design would be going too far to say that he's a giant man who is like a lizard. I think it pulled off just fine. Yeah, so that's what I think about the Suicide Squad trailer. It's pretty awesome. I love the fact that they used Bohemian Rhapsody as the song in the background of the trailer. It's a pretty good way to set the mood for the movie and the trailer, I think. So it really worked out that way. What else is going on here? I'm going to do another little thing before I close things out. Oh, yeah. The X-Files came out last night. Okay, so I'm going to go through this and I'm going to end the show out because we're getting close to the end. But my relationship with the X-Files. It came out in 6th grade. I was super into aliens. So much, in fact, that I would lose sleep worrying about being abducted at night. But I was the kind of kid to where if I was scared of something, I would get into it as much as possible, because if I was interested in something, then I would inevitably understand it and I would no longer be afraid of it. But as I got older and my social life became busier, I lost touch with the show and I stopped watching probably, around 97. Yeah, I think it was around 97 when I stopped watching. So I missed quite a few years of it. I always meant to go back and rewatch it, but, life gets in the way and you have to prioritize your TV watching. So when they announced this, I was afraid that I was going to be lost going into it. And then as the date got closer and closer and closer, I kept saying, man, I don't have time to rewatch the X-Files to catch up for this. I'm going to miss out. So I watched it last night, and they started off with this nice little 1-minute recap that's pretty much summed up everything that you needed to have summed up for you if you were a new person to the show or you had missed the end of the series before. They told you everything you needed to know about who they were, what they were working on, all in 1 minute. They didn't go into too much detail about their romantic life. They left that for exposition, which I don't normally like exposition in TV shows because I feel like it's always very heavy-handed, but they actually did this really well and layered it in, and their relationship and how it went wrong. They told that very well. So I really dug that. When I originally heard that the show was coming back, I was hoping that it would be about aliens. And I know that they had good episodes that weren't based on aliens, but I knew that this was a 6-episode miniseries, and if they were going to focus on anything, I didn't want it to be on the Peacock family or something like that. I wanted it to be on aliens, because when you really get down to it, that's what the X-Files is about. It's a show about aliens. And if they only had 6 episodes to focus on something, I personally would have preferred that that's what they focus on. By the way, 6 episodes is a good length for a season, if you ask me. More shows could benefit from that. Just look at The Walking Dead. Great first season because it was short and they had to get to the point. After they got longer seasons, it was just like they were struggling to fill episodes, and that's bad for a show. So I think a 6-episode season sometimes is a good thing. We'll talk about The Walking Dead when it comes back. Mid-February, I think, is when it comes back. But 6 episodes is a good length for a season. But anyways, turns out they come right out of the gate with a UFO crashing into the desert. And I don't want to go too much into spoiler territory, but So the show is about UFO, sort of this time, but it turns out that there's a whole new government conspiracy, and Mulder realizes that he was wrong. There were a few things that bothered me about the show, but it's nothing about the show itself. It's just like little kitschy things that you find in any episode of any show. Like there's an Alex Jones type guy who posts videos on a website called, it's supposed to be YouTube, but it's called MindQuad. And they use a search engine a few times in the episode called Finder Spider with a Y. And whenever I'm watching a TV show, I always wonder, why don't they use Google, or why don't they use YouTube? Why do they make this special website to show these things? So it was a bunch of little things like that kind of like took me out of the episode, and I hate being taken out of an episode by distracting things on the screen. But other than that, the episode was superb. I don't want to get too much into spoilers, but they introduce a new problem, and that problem is that they've been wrong all along about the alien conspiracy. It turns out that it's a government conspiracy to take over the world. That seems a little weird the way I'm saying it, but if you watch the show, like I'm saying, I don't want to spoil anything, but if you watch the episode, you'll see it's a little more in-depth than that. So I would highly recommend watching the new episode of the X-Files. I actually have already decided I'm sticking with it. I'm going to watch the full arc, and I know it's only 6 episodes, and that's nothing impressive, but I'm going to stick with the X-Files this little short season and see how it turns out, because it's actually pretty interesting. Give it a go. I would recommend. I'm going to close the show out now. That's the end of the first episode. I hope you guys dug it. Again, I'm going to try to keep these at under half an hour, the best I can. If you have any thoughts about anything we've talked about on here, my Twitter is @Mainstream Geek, and my email is jason@mainstreamgeek.com. I plan on releasing a show every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, so make sure you subscribe on iTunes or Stitcher or wherever you listen at, and that way you can stay up to date with everything I talk about. Visit mainstreamgeek.com to read articles and everything I find interesting but can't make it into the show. If you want to listen to my other podcast, Completely Straight, go to completelystraight.com, and you'll find links to everywhere that you can hear us at. And see you next time. Keep it geeky.